Welcome to the Got Trauma Podcast with your hosts, Courtney K. and Monica Newland.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back with another episode.
Here we are. What episode is this now? Is this 15?
We're in and around the 15 mark.
Look at us go.
Yeah. And we've got a couple in the bank, so we're getting ahead, which is always nice.
Yes, we're 5 away from the big 2-0, which is pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, episode 20 is a big goal for us.
It is.
Because a lot of people don't make it to episode 20, and I can see why. It's a lot of work. It's been very fulfilling.
Yeah. It definitely has. Yeah, it does get overwhelming at times, but that's why we're here.
But we're plugging away.
We are.
It's not just good for everybody else, it's good for us.
Absolutely.
Hopefully
that's
we
why
say
we
that
started
enough.
it with us in mind. So, and then we
exactly.
share. That's the whole purpose, right?
And today we decided to talk about something that is just like super practical in our eyes, which is sort of coping techniques and quick exercises and like little practices that you can do to manage stress, things that have helped us along our healing journey, ways that we have been able to, calm our energy and like bring us out of like states of like fight or flight, or like when we're really had anxiety attacks. So those things are often pretty rampant, especially when you're healing. Or I shouldn't say especially when you're healing, but also when you're healing, because a lot of these emotions come up and you still like, have those triggers, and you are those emotions still get elevated. So I have certainly had to keep these practices going, even though I'm not in sort of the chaos anymore. I've had to do things to manage my stress and to keep a little bit more balance. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things that have worked for us, and some really like simple practical tools and techniques that you guys can use if you find yourself in a little bit of stress or feeling anxious. Hopefully these will help.
Yes, well, most of them have helped us. We have different tactics and techniques. They're like a little emotional calming snacks.
Yeah.
That you pick up when you're having a really bad,
snacks.
Well, for me, little anxiety attack here and there. And I'm like, oh, what do I go to?
Yeah.
So
we just wanted to share that, things that have worked for us. Again, we are not professionals.
Yes.
By any stretch.
Always reiterate.
We are not Courtney is a certified Reiki practitioner. So she is certified, and she's going to talk a little bit about what that practice looks like for her. But as far as like medical advice or anything, you have to really try things out for yourself.
Yeah,
do your
100%.
research, find what works for you. And we're just going to talk about things that have worked for us. But again, this is not things that you have to do. It's just we're sharing some of these tools with you.
Yes.
So I like the this is like coping snacks.
Coping snacks. Yeah, I love it.
Little tidbits, little tools, little information. Okay, so I already mentioned your Reiki practice. So why don't you start there? Why don't you talk a little bit about what it is that you've been up to, how that, I know you've mentioned in previous episodes.
But. Yeah. Well, I was introduced to it when I was younger, and I was always fascinated by it. For the longest time, though, I really only thought that it applied to like physical ailment. I didn't realize how the scale is so vast. And once I was getting treatments and stuff and realized that it really does an incredible number on the emotional healing, I was like, okay, I need to do this. I need to learn how to do this. So I did my 1 and my 2. And
your level 1, level 2?
Yes. So my level 1 and my level 2. And I've just started. So I'm about 2 years in. I practice on myself. I practice on the kids a lot, which is really interesting. And for me, it is just sort of I use it in in correspondence with meditation. So I work with them together, and it's that's a quick one for me. If I'm really feeling overstimulated, I can just, Reiki on, do a little like chakra cleanse and sort of ground myself, kind of figure out what exactly is being affected, like what chakra. For me, my heart chakra is usually the most affected, and that attributes to like childhood trauma and stuff like that. Also, my my other one is my root, which again, that also pertains to like life, force energy, that kind of stuff. And that is just, those are the ones that I feel are really affected a lot of the time, like on my own, working on myself. So, but I'm very novice still. I am still reading
So
and
yeah, for
learning.
people who are a little bit unaware of what Reiki is, and like I have a bit of an understanding, but like what is high level? It's energy healing,
It's energy healing,
essentially.
yes. So it's we're all, we all have universal life force energy. Like that's um kind of, I'm trying to think of a way to put it in layman's terms so that I don't get too caught up in the wording, just because I find you can kind of lose people in that. Uh, I, the best way to describe it is when you fall and you hurt yourself, your instant reaction is to put your hands on where you've hurt yourself. It's just that connection to the energy in your body to heal yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and the idea is when you become attuned, so that's where you have your first level and you become attuned, and then you have your second level, which your first level, you work on yourself and you work on people in your home, and then your second level, you graduate to like working on people, and you can open a have, be a practitioner and have your own open, like, what do you call it, a business, I guess. So I'm between, I'm still just working on family and myself because I want to harness that. And I, again, like I said, novice, so needing to get the lingo down. And yeah, so it's just
And when you do a session, you because like often people have like blocks, and you mentioned in our last episode too, we talked about the chakras a little bit, or maybe that was the oracle card reading, which was like a
yeah.
little bonus episode. When
Sorry.
you have in the different chakras, people can have blockages,
Yes.
and that can be related to certain types of trauma per se, and where you've stored that trauma, or maybe where you've been physically abused, or like that sort of thing as well. And
A
the
lot of it,
Reiki
yeah.
helps to move that out.
Yeah, that's the idea is, because we're as much of an energy body as we are a physical body. So when we have things stored in the chakras, I don't really like calling them blocks because blocked makes it sound like dead, but like they get
Okay, yeah,
built
yeah.
up, like they get
Okay,
cruddy,
yeah.
and you just have to be able to like just clean them out, and moving through all the let's call it gunk. I'm just going to say gunk. Moving all
Yeah.
that gunk out and making space to work everything else, because there are life wheels, right? Like that's
Okay, yeah, yeah.
what chakras are, is
Yeah, and you got to
let me
keep
just
everything flowing.
let me just get
And
it let me just be technical for a second, just because yeah, I find sometimes when I'm on the spot, my brain's like, huh?
well, and I like it is so Reiki, we started with Reiki. This is not a quick fix. This is
No.
something that you maybe is a little bit more of a maintenance thing. Or if you're really feeling stuck and you are looking for somebody to help sort of relieve some of that built up anxiety or whatever, going and seeing somebody like Courtney would provide some relief. So we're talking about Reiki. Maybe you learn Reiki on yourself. Maybe you go to somebody who's a practitioner and you get it done. But because it is a pretty technical field.
No, it definitely is. And that is why I'm doing more reading and getting more. I find it hard to sort of like, I know the things, but actually relaying them out of my mouth, because I don't have that. It's so much easier. It's so much easier to show than it is to
Yeah,
explain.
gotcha.
It's just one of
Yeah.
those things. Um, so anyways, just to like, so chakra means a field, blah, 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 blah. A field, like a battlefield, is the place of operation for specific types of activities. So, meaning of the 7 chakras and the different operational fields that an individual life force can operate in. So, if that makes sense, that's just a sort of short form. But again, for me, the tangibility is I feel it. I can feel the energy. I can feel it move through me. I can feel it move through other people. And the interesting thing too about Reiki is when you're doing it, you get downloads. You start to pick up different things from different emotional bodies, especially when you're going through the chakras. And it's really interesting to kind of trust the information that's coming to you. And I mean, I'm not by any means, I'm a very open person, but I also have there's a little bit of skepticism sometimes. So I get very curious about it because I'm just like, oh, this is very interesting. Like my girls, for instance, are very different. Their energy fields you have one that's very self-conscious, and then you have one that's very self-assured and very wants to know the meaning of life, and the other one just wants to be free. And it's really, really interesting. Anyways, it's but yeah, I do love doing it. It's one of my favorite things to do for myself when I'm feeling super overwhelmed. I'm very glad that I finally took that plunge and did it.
Yeah.
And I do want to, in the next few months, start sharing it with other people and start my own sort of practice. So
love that. So, okay. So 2 questions for you. So how did you know that Reiki was something that you should look into, or how do people know when Reiki would be a good option for them? And how did you figure out that this is something that you wanted to do? Was it because you experienced it for the first time?
I was introduced to it when I was young. So I do believe you have to be introduced to it. Otherwise you're not really going to be aware of it. It's out there, and there are a lot more people practicing and using it for other things, but it's not something it's not a westernized thing, right? It's an Eastern thing. And and I mean, there are a lot of people out there that look at that stuff and go like, what the fuck? So again, it's not that, I mean, it's popular, but it's not that popular that people are just going to know to just turn to Reiki for different things. Again, like I said in the very beginning, I thought it was just for physical. I did not even think about emotional and mental manifestations, and that it would be an incredible tool for helping with that. And then it is, and it's something that I use very often. And yeah, I mean, if you're curious about it, look it up. That's the best. That's, again, too, I don't want to be a preachy person because I'm not. So I don't keep hordes of information stored up inside of me to like spit out facts. I'm more or less like, if you're curious about this, like look into it. As far as my practice and how I practice, I do it very intuitively and it comes to me. And that's just kind of how it is. There's technical components, but there also isn't. It's very much, feeling. And
so not everybody will maybe experience effects from Reiki, and not everybody's able to teach Reiki or be a practitioner, I guess. Like, it kind of depends on the individual.
Well, it depends if you want to. I think anybody could become a Reiki practitioner if they're open to. You definitely have to be open to the concept of what it's about. I mean, if you're not, then it won't really work for you. But yeah, it's something, again, it's hard to, like, for me anyways, to fully put into words that would make a skeptic be convinced or be interested in its value.
Right. Okay.
So it's one of those things, like I said, I had to experience it to understand it. And like, that's how it was.
I'm so curious.
It wasn't presented to me. It wasn't brought on by my own curiosity. It was brought to me by the person I was babysitting for, and I hurt myself on the trampoline. And she's like, "Do you want me to do a Reiki treatment?" And I was like, "Okay." But I mean, I've always been open, so I wasn't like, no. I was like, "Okay, cool. That sounds amazing." And it was instantaneous that I started to feel better. And that was my payment for looking after her kids for that day, was a Reiki treatment.
Yeah. I do remember you
So,
telling me that story.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. I
it
have
is.
not really had like a session or anything like that. Like I've never had it with anybody. I think really I've only know about it from really you talking about it. Although there was a time when I was dealing with fertility issues that a good friend did like distance energy healing and was just telling me that like, hey, I'm doing this so you're aware, no need to like confirm
Yeah.
or anything, but it was just, that sort of positive energy. So I get like I don't really understand it, so I'm not like a good judge, but like I don't understand because I never even like done it. But I do find it like super fascinating and definitely want to try it out because I think that I broke my ankle too. Maybe that would help me with my ankle.
Well, remember a few weeks ago when you were feeling really down and out, and it was right after I had
Oh
gotten
yeah.
I did my second attunement, and it was right after that because your second attunement is when you can start doing distance healings, and
Okay.
so that was, I think I said, because I obviously come home with homework when you after your attunements and you start working on your close friends and family just to get just to get
Practice and
hone in that intuition and hone in
yeah.
um that energy. And I remember saying to you, I'm like, okay, I'm going to send you a treatment, but I'm not going to tell you when, just going
Yeah.
to do it. And it's funny because I remember doing it and I could feel how dense your energy was and how
Mm.
low it was feeling. And I remember after sending it to you, I could feel it lift.
Yeah.
And then when I was talking to you and I'm like, I'd said, I was like, oh, I sent you the treatment. And you're like, well, that's funny because I started to feel better after around 7:30. And I'm like, well, I sent it to you around 7. So that made sense.
Yeah. I remember looking at the clock and being like, oh, I wonder. Like I just all
Yeah.
of a sudden had a little more like pep in my step or
Yeah.
something. And I remember looking at the clock and like taking note of it because again, we hadn't talked for like hours. And so you didn't tell me when you were going to do it, but I did remember like looking at the clock and being like taking note of that because I was anticipating that might happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I did find some relief for sure, I think. So I think this is like an amazing option that people should really look into. I know that it's helped a lot of people that we know
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
I think this is more of like sort of like a maintenance thing again, not really like a quick coping mechanism, but
No, it's
is something that's a
definitely
little bit you can learn
it's definitely
something on
a
it.
yeah, it's definitely for maintenance. It's not a cure-all sort of like that's not what its purpose is. I mean, it has been known to work miracles. If you read through a lot of like the history of Reiki, you'll see stuff like that. But I mean, in its essence, it's meant to, like you said, anything, cleaning your house, cleaning your chakras, same sort of idea, just keeps
Yeah.
everything flowing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why I use it, just to getting a little cruddy. It's time to sort of, I try to do
Love
it
it.
on a daily basis just to keep all that, because you pick up energy from all over the place, and
Mhm.
sometimes you're not fully aware of what you're bringing in or with you, and
Yeah.
you just have to kind of clean it out and send it
Mhm.
back to the earth and
That's
let
good.
her transmute it, and then it comes back
Yeah.
as better energy.
No, totally. I love it. That actually plays nicely into what I was going to talk about next, which was something that I do for some maintenance. I guess maintenance is kind of like the best word I could feel to describe how I continue to try to stay balanced, which is through yoga.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different elements, which is why I'm so curious in Reiki, because there's a lot of crossover between yoga and meditation that you mentioned,
Yep.
and energy points and chakras. I did like a whole chakra class through my yoga studio. And yoga has a lot of the same principles in that in general it's used as like a way to calm your nervous system. It's a way to um, sort of push out the negative and
Yep.
bring in positive energy and to sort of keep that flow going. A lot of the classes are called flow classes actually that
Yep.
you go to. I'm going to actually demonstrate a salutation, which is where you sort of like you lift your hands up and you sort of bring the energy
Yeah.
from like the sky essentially, or the sun, and you lift the energy or pull the energy down into your body and you push it out through your feet and grounding.
Is that the sun salutation?
Sun salutation. Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
So I'll show you. Okay, bear with me because I got my yoga mat in the back and I'm gonna have to take my headphones out. See me.
I can
So
see
it's
you.
really like I said, you bring your hands up.
I love that one. That's a good one. I need to start doing that again. I was doing yoga for that's also
So
too.
that's
If you can't
yeah.
get to a yoga class, I was just going to quickly, this just popped into my head. There is this wonderful woman online, and her, oh, what's the YouTube channel? The YouTube channel is called Yoga with Adrienne, I
Oh
believe.
yeah, I love her. She's
Oh my
great.
God, she's amazing. She's like
Yeah.
one of my favorite people. And I was doing that for so long. And then I
Yeah.
suck at routine. Like I'm working on it, but I do, I get so just, ugh.
Yoga by Adrienne is a great, we'll put that link in the resource
Yes.
because she has lots of good quick ones too that are like
Yes.
5 minutes, 10 minutes. She has ones that are longer.
Yep.
But things that are specific for like stress reduction or like
Yes.
release your like to release pressure in your hips, to like for your back. Like she has like a like there she has like thousands of episodes.
Yeah, I know, it's wild. Like
It's amazing.
anxiety ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
And she always
So
has her dog with her, which is nice. I like
know.
that too.
Yeah, it's a really good YouTube channel.
Yes, it
But
is.
that just that quick like only takes a couple of seconds to do, and you feel so much better like I find. So I do that just like randomly. Like I'll just stop myself if I'm feeling a little bit like kind of in the thick of it or feeling a
Yep.
little like overwhelmed. It just brings you back. You give yourself that couple of seconds to just bring yourself back. And it's such a really nice way. Like when you're pulling that positive energy down and you're pushing the negative out, like there really is, when you start to do it, you really do start to feel the difference in it.
100%.
And
Yeah,
the
you do.
hanging part, when you saw me go over, like doing that sort of inversion, it really does, like there's a whole science to like inversions and things like that, which I am not professional enough to know, but
Yep.
that's really good for creating space in your back and in your chest. And so again, like if you are getting a little like if you're breathing heavy or something like that and you want to tight chested, then doing something like that can really make you feel better. And
oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
just
You're
again,
right.
like this is like more of like a maintenance thing. Like I go to yoga 3 to 4 times a week to keep myself balanced, which is a lot. But because I love it, because I've really like, you don't have to do it 3 to 4 times a week, but like I just find it makes such a huge difference in me being able to manage my day, manage my emotions, manage like any sort of anxiety or things like that I get throughout the week. And like I'm going to go to yoga tonight. And there is lots of different ways you can do it. There's lots of different types of classes. You just got to try it out, find what works. Some of them are a little bit more like fitness oriented, but there is, and I think you're going to talk to this point, a lot of meditation that's involved with it too. And when you're doing yoga, the whole like a big piece of it is learning to control your breathing and learning to sort of sit in like like put yourself in a more calm state. So for me, that's been hugely helpful.
Well, I was just going to ask, in your practices, do they use the word equanimity a lot?
No.
Okay, so equanimity is like one of my favorite words, and it was introduced to me by an amazing meditation teacher. His name is Jeff Warren, and he actually wrote the book. Why is my brain farting? Oh, sorry. He wrote the book Meditation for the Fidgety Skeptic. Which is me, right? Because I always thought that meditation required that you had to be in this like absolute state of mental peace, and if you weren't in that state of mental peace, you weren't meditating.
Yeah.
So I had a really hard time because my brain trails. It's always just like off, and I've got 1,000 different thoughts. I'm like running movies through my head, dreams,
Yeah.
dinner, all that shit. So when I did actually, I had the Calm app for a long time, and that was an incredible app. Highly recommend it to anybody who wants to try. It does cost money, but there is another one that's free, and that's called Insight Timer, and it's
I
another
just got
great
that
one.
one.
Yeah, I love it. It's
Actually,
great.
my yoga teacher told me about it.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's free, and you could pay for the upgrade, and it's got amazing stuff, but you don't need to because there's just so much on it that's free. So anyways, equanimity is, I'm just going to read so mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temperament, especially in difficult situations. So basically applying that to meditation for me was, it didn't matter how busy my mind got if I just brought myself back to that moment. Just all of a sudden, it's all about just noticing that your mind is being busy and being like, oh, you're busy. Let's just come back to the calming music that's around us, or whatever the words are being spoken. You're still meditating, even though you've gotten lost in translation. It doesn't mean you're not doing it right. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just harnessing in and, doing those mental exercises to reel yourself back in. So when you are in situations that are chaotic and feeling unmanageable, you just pull yourself back into that equanimity. Instead of letting your mind explode, you're just like, nope, I just bring it back in right here, right now. I'm okay. Everything is okay.
Yeah.
And tapping is another one so emotional freedom techniques is what that stands for. And that's tapping on your like the acupuncture points. So like forehead and like below your collarbone, armpits. I'm actually reading it right now. Inner eyebrows, like look it up, Google it. It's really amazing. And it's also something that is improvised in meditation. Tapping. I've done.
So is it? It's what did you say? It's called?
It's
not called
called. So
tapping.
its acronym is EFT, and it's emotional freedom techniques.
We'll put a bunch of, the reason why I ask is we'll put some links to everything
definitely
in the show notes. So emotional freedom.
Yeah, emotional freedom techniques.
Cool.
Yeah,
this is something I haven't done a whole lot of, but I have seen it. I have seen other people do it, and I don't know if I've ever tried it. I think I've done this, like when you tap your chest,
which is great because that just stimulates the blood flow to your extremities, right? When you're feeling overwhelmed, good, so it just brings you just sit there. I do it all the time. People stare at me, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just tapping away. Suck it. I don't care. Like, and that was another one that was very interestingly introduced to me. I was actually on a job site back in the day when I was doing my plumbing apprenticeship, and I had to go to a funeral, and funerals, we know my past with funerals. They really, really wake me out. It's one of those things, I get so much anxiety. It depends on the situation, but if it's in a church or it's in a funeral home, I'm fucking off in la la land because I'm just so bent out of shape about it. So anyways, I was on this job site, and we're doing something for this woman, and she noticed I was really anxious, and I think she had just finished actually doing an energy healing course, and she was asking me, she's like, I can see that you're, feeling overstimulated. She was like, can I teach you something? And I was like, absolutely. So she started by showing me here. She's like, okay, do this. And then she's like, and then move over to here. And then she showed me like just continuing on, and then on the eyebrows, like the whole, and it was amazing. I'm like, holy fuck. I could feel it. Like, it's basically just sort of taking your mind off of what you're emotionally winding yourself up about. So, but yeah, that's
cool.
It was really, really awesome.
And that's a really simple and quick thing that you can do like anywhere. You could be sitting at your desk at work, or you could be in the car, or you could be standing and talking to somebody and starting to get a little bit elevated, and then do that tapping technique. And you could do it more
and that works
like this is very obvious, right? But you could do it where maybe it's a little bit more discreet.
Well, that's what I would do that a lot, actually. I'd be sitting there just tapping on my wrist, and I actually did that for the entire service I was at. that day.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because but I just could not
But it kept you
believe how
going.
quickly it worked. It was so
Yeah.
fast. Almost it's because when you especially if you experience anxiety on a regular basis and there is no relief for it
Mm-hmm.
besides burying yourself under the blankets and just hiding from the world, or having to take anti-anxiety medication just to get those blockers
Relief.
going so that
Yeah.
that whole things like that flight stops. It's really an incredible. It's like, why do we teach that? I mean, it's starting to actually. They've been teaching it in.
They teach meditation and things like that in school now.
Well, they do. They were actually Evie has this thing because Evie can be really high anxiety at times, and when she gets really worried about stuff, she'll trace her fingers, and she'll
Oh, cool.
breathe in, and she'll trace her fingers, and she'll tell herself it's okay, and she counts. And I mean, to see that as a parent, you're like, wow,
That's incredible.
Why the fuck didn't we learn this shit? Like, honestly.
Yeah, it's these self-regulating techniques, right? Like where you're like, it takes a lot of work, and I think the biggest part through all of this is catching yourself. Like that's the hardest part. You can have all these tools, but if you don't recognize when to catch yourself, like that's where you need like practice catching yourself, like remind yourself like that, okay, I can do this. Even like it's never too late, like that sort of thing, right? Because
that's why I love the word equanimity. That's
so
why
cool.
I love it. And I always say that to myself when I get it's like equanimity. Bring yourself back to just that state. It's not about anything else around you. It's about what's in you. Just bring yourself back to that level of calm.
I wanted to go back to the meditation thing because one of the things I was also taught. So, okay, when I first started learning meditation, it was like silence your mind. You're not meditating unless you silence your mind completely, which I found very difficult. And when I look back to like where I was getting with it, like was pretty incredible because I was getting pretty silenced, but was never sustainable.
Yes.
But I did. I think it was in one of my like yoga classes again, where it was about not just silent, like it wasn't just about silencing your mind. It was more so about like switching sort of what you're thinking about too. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. Like you can have an active mind still in meditation as long as it's active on like positive things. Like you can be sitting there and going through positive affirmations, positive mantras, having like being in a state of like gratitude and appreciation, which was something I wanted to talk about as well. Like, you can be meditating on those types of things. You're still meditating,
exactly.
In my opinion.
Yeah. It's not all about sitting in absolute silence and having absolutely no thoughts. We are not built to have no thoughts. That's not how our brain works. We're always going to have thoughts. Like you said, it's about regulating the thoughts and bringing them into, all of a sudden you're sitting there, you're quietly listening to music, feeling that vibe, and all of a sudden you start thinking about your shitty work day, and it's being, and then it sort of starts to escalate, and then you're not meditating if you've gone into that. But to be able to identify it and say, no, that's not here right now. I'm here, and bringing yourself back and positive, like you said, thinking about the music you're listening to, thinking about the feelings you want to feel. I want to feel happy. I want to feel calm. I want to feel, and it's you manifesting those emotions and feelings without necessarily having to have an experience to
tie it to.
Exactly. Right. You're self-regulating really is what, and then, but maintaining it, and it gets longer and longer. I mean, for me, I'm a squirrel, my brain, I'm a squirrel. Same. So I'm good for about, I want to say like maybe 30 seconds.
I was gonna say, I hope you're gonna say like 3 minutes.
Or I'm not gonna lie. No. I'll be dead honest about that one. Like it's like every 30 seconds, it's like, Courtney, come back. Courtney, come back. Courtney, come back.
Gosh,
And that's what I really like about Jeff Warren, when I was saying earlier, because he did the book for the Fidgety Skeptic, because he talks about that stuff. He talks about it very liberally, very, it's not like, sort of like a slap on the hand. If you don't do it right, you're not going to get any benefit out of it. So don't bother
Yeah.
doing it if you can't do it right, sort of thing. And I mean, like, that
Yeah.
does deter people because there are things that sort of implement that
Yeah. Oh,
by,
yeah.
kind of saying, well, if you don't do it this way, then you're not doing it right. So, move
Yeah.
on. And then you're discouraged.
Yeah,
So don't be
exactly.
discouraged because
Well,
that's,
and that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I think when I started to shift how I thought about meditation towards more of like, no, you can still have the thoughts, but just make them all about like really positive
yeah,
things. So like thinking more about like mantras and affirmations and things like that. So like sitting in that gratitude. So like I just wrote down a couple that I really like, and it's um like something I would say to myself, especially when I have been in like the healing part of my recovery, my trauma recovery or whatever, is that, my healing is not selfish, and that taking me sitting in this moment is not selfish. Me taking this time out of my day to do this self care sort of practice is not selfish. So, sitting in those types of feelings and then being like, yeah, this is a beautiful moment I'm experiencing. I
yeah,
love the music that's playing, and starting like, so you can even just see like how I'm talking, like,
yeah.
yeah, my mind is going, but I'm trying to bring it into like
You're evolving the
a
positivity out of
healthy,
it, right?
yeah, the
Yeah.
positive side of everything, right? And so that has really helped be able to do that meditate. Like for me, it's really helped be able to do that meditation. And I don't meditate. I'm like, I know you do it a little bit differently than I do, because you like make time and you sit, right? Or how do you do your
Oh,
meditation?
I'm not
Because
going to be a liar
mine
here.
is
It's
the
been a
last like
while.
Mine is like the last, I don't know if it's like 5 or 10 minutes. It's called Shavasana at the end of your yoga session. So at the
Yes.
end of the day, or sorry, at the end of the hour, it's usually an hour, they take that time. It's called Shavasana. And then that's when I sit in that meditation, because my body is now like kind of
Well, you've
chilled
moved all the
out.
energy through it. Anything negative has come out. So
Yeah.
now you
And then
can
my mind
take,
starts going right away as soon as I'm like not focusing on like the physical part of it.
yeah.
But then I just got to remind myself, no, okay, like let's just think about what like the positives, like, thank yourself for making that time, oh, be excited for, going, I can't wait to see my children when I get back, or,
Yeah.
like, I'm so grateful that, we get to do this, or I'm so grateful for this experience that we had. It was so nice to like, whatever it is, there's always things to be grateful and positive about. You just have to acknowledge them and make an effort to do that. So I try to sit in those moments.
Absolutely. It's as you're talking about this, you're making me remember a time um, when a really good friend of ours, her mom was doing yoga classes and we were taking them. And at the end, she would do a guided meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the most incredible experience because I remember very vividly laying there and I can remember her talking about the forest. I can remember her talking about it
Cool.
being fall, the way it
Mm-hmm.
smelled, the way the leaves, you
Yeah.
could hear the leaves under your feet, and being completely immersed in that and actually being walking through this forest. And I really had no concept of meditation at the time, or if even was that interested, to be honest, but because it really hadn't become a part of my wheelhouse yet. So I was able to completely immerse myself in that. And the interesting part is once I, you know, came to meditation for relief and so on, that's when I struggled to fully
Mm,
immerse myself because I thought it had to be done a certain way. And if I
right.
wasn't doing it a certain way, then, it's almost like that kind of innocence of doing it the very first time I was exposed to it. My mind was open to it versus when I decided to take it on, it was like, well, if you're not going to do it right this way, then you can't do it. So,
Yeah.
and then I made a bigger deal out of it. And then finally started to evolve the equanimity. And that
Mm-hmm.
was really pivotal for me and something that
Yeah.
I use when I do
Mm-hmm.
meditate. It has been a while, I will not lie. I would like to make it a daily practice. I just I'm a bit of a self-sabotager sometimes when it comes to things that I need to do for myself.
Yeah. Oh, I
So
am
it's
too.
always like,
Yeah.
oh, you need to do
Not
this is
priority,
got to
not
get,
priority.
no, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing it so well for so long, just prioritizing myself that, and I felt so amazing. And I need to get back to
Yeah.
that. So sometimes it's like you fall off the wagon Though you
Yeah,
fall
yeah.
off the self-care wagon
All the
and you
time.
gotta
Yeah.
climb back
Yeah.
on there. But
It
yeah.
is definitely something that like I have like a membership, and like so I've already bought these classes. So like
Yeah.
if I don't use them, like so like monetarily it keeps me motivated.
Absolutely.
um
Yeah.
like because I have something tied to it, and I've bought this, right? So for me, that's where I can,
Oh,
I make the time every single, well, like I said, like 3-4 times a week to make sure that I go. And it's
yep.
like every single time I come back and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I just like, why don't I just do this all day long?
Well, it's so funny you would even mention that because it's really interesting because Reiki, that's one of like that's a principle of Reiki too. A lot of the reason why they started to take payment for Reiki is because when it was first being used, people were coming and they were getting healed, and then they weren't having accountability for their healings because it was being done as a
Oh,
a
okay.
gift. So
Oh,
they're just coming back. Okay, well, I don't you're going to fix me again, you're going to fix me again, you're going to fix me again.
gotcha.
So the monetary aspect gave them, like you said, it gives you more responsibility that you have to be a part of this work too.
Yeah.
It's not just somebody fixing you. It just, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you more accountable for your own healing and how it
No,
will
absolutely.
benefit you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not about making big money off these things, but it does make you show up for yourself when,
Yeah. Well,
you
and
put $200, $300 into it. You don't really want
for
to.
sure. And like, it's just like anything, you pay for expertise. Like
Yeah.
it's, of course, okay, we mentioned about Yoga by Adrienne, which is like an amazing yoga channel that's free on YouTube, and she does all of her video, like she records all this stuff and she puts all these videos, and like everybody can use YouTube for free. But and it's like you could be doing that every single day, right? And some people are able to do that every day. Like it depends like on the individual, right? You get yourself up in the morning or whatever it is and you make that time every single day and you have that structure. I like struggle with that sort of structure. And
Yep.
so for me, being able to pay like a professional outside of my home, and like I go there and I being like, sort of coached by these people, they're walking me through the exercises, they're making sure that I'm doing it correctly. They're doing like more of a like the shavasana is sometimes more of like a guided meditation, like it depends on the yoga instructor. But I'm paying these people to make sure that I'm doing it
Yep.
essentially, and I'm accountable, and they're accountable to me because I've paid them. So like it works
Yep.
really well. And when you have that sort of, when you do that, it does help, but
I think it does.
it doesn't help for everybody. It's not like
I think
the
it
way to
definitely
do it
keeps
for
you
everybody for
motivated.
sure.
And obviously
Yeah.
it's all about affordability and what you can do. But if you really want to put the work in and do it yourself, I mean, I feel like that is, for me anyways, it's harder because like I have this, I could use it at any point in time. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm like, well, I've got socks to match and like
Yeah.
not important, but
Yeah.
I'm going to prioritize that just because it's
Mm-hmm.
easier than being accountable for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but yeah,
Well, so far, yeah. So we've covered a couple of things so far. I wanted to mention just a couple of more, which we've already sort of touched on, but which was breath work. Breath work for me has been really important. I've done
yep,
it in a few different ways as well. Like one of them is, if anyone's heard of Wim Hof, he does like polar plunges and these sort of things. He does like
that's
cold
his
plunge
cold
therapy.
therapy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in addition to the cold therapy or the cold exposure, which he's like a professional on and does all of these sort of, yeah, it's super cool. Anyways, check it out. He watches videos on YouTube. He does like guided breathing techniques as well. And so this sort of plays into like everything that we've been talking about, and sort of catching yourself and um, like pulling your body out of that sort of fight, flight, freeze sort of moment. And breath work has been really important, is usually really important for people who have experienced like stress or trauma. And so, and in yoga, we do it, of course, like meditation, it's, you trying to breathe a little bit slower, things like that.
Yep.
So one really quick thing that you can do is if you're just getting new to breath work, because again, Wim Hof is like he's a big name in the industry, and he has like all these very, like, it's a little bit more intense. You can just do like really simple breath work, which is like counting to 4. So like breathing in, counting to 4, holding it for a few seconds, and then breathing out, counting to 6.
Yeah.
So I do that. So if you're just like sort of in the moment, you're a little bit overwhelmed, you just, breathe in, just go.
Yeah. Yeah. I love breathing techniques. Those are
If you do that
more of
a
my
couple of
favorite things to
times,
do.
yeah, you do that a couple of times. I know this sounds like really simple, and like, yeah, everybody knows they should breathe or whatever, and they should, but if doing like the 4 in, hold for a second, 6 out, and if you do that for a minute, you are going to seriously like feel like relief, like very, very quickly, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It's like, it's a good way to like really give yourself a second to really get back into your body, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, you know why that works that way too? And this was something that I just learned, I don't even know, like a couple months ago, was I always thought the deeper the breath you took was what was calming you. And it's actually not. It's the longer you breathe out that
Yeah.
regulates.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I always thought it was just you take a deep breath in and then let it out. But it's like, no, the longer you take to let that breath out, the calmer your
Yeah.
body becomes. And another thing,
I think there is different like theories behind all of this. Again, like, we're not
Mhm.
professionals, but for me, like that 4 in, 6 out, so like the
Yeah.
longer out
Yeah.
helps. That I
Yep.
have found more effective, and that's sort of what I've been able to naturally do a little bit easier and find more comfort in.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and
so
that's why I thought that was interesting, because I had just learned that about the longer you take to let a breath out, the calmer your body becomes. It's not about the inhale, it's about the exhale. So I thought that was really interesting. Another thing too, just to play off of the cold exposure thing, something I learned for heart palpitations, if you're really in like a state of heightened emotional, you know what I mean,
stress,
is getting an ice pack and putting it between like your chest plate, like your
yeah.
between your titties, but for the
Yeah.
mans out there, not your titties. Yeah, and
The
putting it
breasticles.
there because
Mm-hmm.
apparently it stimulates the vagus nerve and that helps
Okay. Yeah.
calm. I've used it
I
before when
have
I've
not tried
had
that.
really bad heart palpitations and I've been
Yeah.
like thinking I'm about to faint. Just throw an ice
Yeah.
pack in there and it just
Really?
instantly, I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh,
I
that
have done the
shock.
cold therapy, and it is shocking.
Mhm.
Something that's a little bit more practical, yeah. So like the ice pack, putting the ice pack like on your chest or between your boobs or whatever,
Yeah.
like that's a really quick thing you can do at home, right? Also, like just like putting cold water in your face, or having like
Yes.
a bowl with ice and water in it, and just dunking your face for
Yeah,
like
that's
as
a really
long
good
as
one
you
too. I've
can
done
do.
that
Like
too.
but when you're really in the thick of it,
Yeah.
like some of them, maybe you don't need to do this all the time, but like when you're really
Yeah,
in the
don't go
thick of it,
polar bear dipping or anything crazy like that when you're feeling
yeah, do that with like
super
professionals
out
or
of
something,
touch.
because it's,
You're driving your
yeah,
car, you're like, there's a river.
yeah,
Just
no,
gonna go
don't
plunge
go jump in,
myself.
because there is definitely like breath work and things like that are involved with like the polar dips and like the Wim
Yeah.
Hof cold plunge techniques and things like that. But
Yeah.
I like that, the ice pack thing. That's good.
Yeah,
And
it's a
I
good
haven't
quick
tried that,
little.
but I have tried the like face, dip your face
Yeah,
in the
I
bowl of
like that
water,
one
and
too.
that's been good too. When
Yeah.
I was really like, it would have been in the summer, I guess, when I was really sick with my autoimmune, I was doing the cold plunge, and I was trying to figure out a way to do the cold plunge, because I have an autoimmune, which is like an inflammatory disease. So like the cold plunges are supposed to be really helpful for that, I guess. But like it's a whole thing to do like a full body cold plunge. There are places that are offering that now, but I found that the face dip in the bowl was super helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
I like
been
that one too.
not something that I do all the time, but like it stimulates, like it calms your nervous system down, just like the breath work. Like most of these things that we're talking about, like it's all intended to calm your nervous system, to like, lower your blood pressure, things like that. The cold plunge. I mean, again, I don't know like the medical, like the theories on all of that, so I don't want to speak to that. But like most of these other things we're talking about, it's got generally the same process. Like you want to, with any of these techniques, you're trying to calm yourself down, calm your nervous system, get out of that fight or flight. And so hopefully these are some like practical things that maybe you have heard of, maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you didn't know how to implement them. But
Yeah.
there is lots of options. We're just touching on like a few of them.
These are just the ones that, yeah, so far there's probably, not probably, there definitely is way more out there. And,
way more.
if anybody else has any insights into that, please share in our community group. That would be amazing.
Yeah. I will show one more, which is somatic exercises, which is something that I'm
that's a good one too.
Relatively new to. But this is really good when you're in your healing, when you're in the healing part of it. Maybe, I'm not sure, I can't speak to how these exercises would be when you're in the thick of it or when you're going through sort of like some turmoil in your life at the moment. But when you're trying to heal and you're trying to sort of regain control of your nervous system and your body, and you're trying to, mind, body, soul, that whole thing, somatic exercises are intended to, essentially bring all that together.
Trauma, right?
Release trauma and push out that negative shit that you've got built up, going back to like the chakras, going back to like the Reiki. Yeah. It's like there's a lot of these things are very, very,
they're all connected. Absolutely. There's a lot of connection. Yeah.
So I got my yoga mat there still. So I'll show you sort of, it's one exercise, but there's two variations of it. Okay. And I do this literally every single day. I do this multiple times a day. I generally from like understanding these things now and understanding how like built up trauma can affect your body, I have a lot of issues with my hips. So for me, this is really good for your hips. Anything where you can like where you can challenge your psoas muscles and things like that, which is all in like your hips and like your tops of your thighs, that whole area, lower back area. That area has been my problem area. So this is an exercise that is really for that sort of stimulation.
Well, lower back is bad for me, so I'm curious to see what you're about to do here.
This will make you feel, it'll make you feel really, really nice.
I'm excited. I want to see. Sorry for coughing.
So you want to lay down on your back, and it's called windshield wipers.
Okay.
And just move your legs back and forth.
So you're cutting out a little bit. Are you spreading your legs or are you moving them side to side together?
I can't hear you because I don't have
my headphones shit.
Hopefully you can see that. You can do it with your legs apart.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Feels so nice.
It looks like it feels nice.
You can go like this.
You can't even hear me. I'm definitely going to try that later. Awesome.
Okay, hopefully you could see that.
We could. We need to get you some Bluetooth headphones, though. It's really awkward. I'm sitting here just yelling at you. You can't hear a fucking thing I'm saying.
No.
I'm like, are your legs open or together?
So you can do them with your legs open or you can do them closed. The idea is that you're just rocking, controlled and slowly back and forth.
Right, yeah.
And it releases your hips. It kind of resets your spine. So like I had to keep going because it was like felt so nice and I wanted to like do it on both sides to make sure.
It's like a rhythmic thing.
Yeah.
Like the flow, right?
And that whole rocking movement back and forth, it just is something that you can do like in the morning before you wake, like in your bed. Like you can just be doing it in the morning or like right before you go to sleep or like any point during the day, like just lay down and just do that a couple of times. And you could do it with your leg on your knee, like your foot on your knee, or not with your legs together or open. Like it doesn't matter. All of them are good because you'll feel it at different, like in different areas of your back
Right.
and in your hips. But I do that like every single day. I find that I didn't even know at first that was a somatic exercise, but one of the girls I watch a lot, and I'll put her YouTube channel, she's called the Workout Witch, and
Okay.
she's amazing.
Awesome. I
I
like
want to
that.
do one of her courses actually, because it's all about built up trauma and how trauma sits in your body, and these different exercises, which are very like subtle. Like this isn't like a workout. Like yoga is physical. It's quite physical. Like you've got to, like you got to push yourself a bit. These exercises that she's talking about are really very gentle, slow and controlled movements, like that windshield wiper motion with your knees. And it's to release and to push, all that garbage, all that gunk out of your body.
Yeah.
And
it's something. It's funny you say that because I want to do the same thing. I want to do that course too. I've seen a course for the somatic body workout, and I want to do it. I think it would be great. I think it would be great to improvise it too with the direction I want to go in Reiki also.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's been super helpful for me. It's something that's super practical and quick that you can do as well. And like, you don't have to get dressed and go to a yoga session or something, right?
Yeah.
So I can keep
But again, that keeps you accountable when you're getting dressed and going to yoga sessions.
No, it does. It does.
So,
it does.
I mean, I have all the amenities here. I can't even make up an excuse as to why I don't do it, besides that I just like to.
But life is busy, and
oh yes, it's so busy. Even though I sat and watched like 6 episodes of some fucking mindless TLC show. Could have done yoga that entire time while I watched that show, but I was like, well, I'm so cozy here in bed eating ice cream cake, so that'll which is also a form of self-care. I just want to say it is
giving yourself time
not
to
as
rest.
Proactive, but
like making sure, like, it's fine to like reward yourself for for putting in the work and for doing the work on yourself. And like I said about the mantra about like it's okay for me to give time to my healing and my space and my energy to this, because I am deserving, and I this is a form of self-love, whether it's sitting, like, I mean, it's okay. It's all about like achieving some balance. Because like one of the other things I was just going to quickly mention was like, I love a hot bath. Like that is like time that you're taking away to, for yourself, have a hot bath. Like going in, like, if you have the opportunity to go into like a sauna or like a hot tub or something like that, like those things are really good for pushing toxins out of your bodies as well. Like anytime you like sweat. So just like the exercise, like all of those things are really good. And it's really just about finding things that work for yourself and just keep it, try everything, try lots of stuff.
Well, exactly. Try everything, and don't give yourself a hard time if, like don't put the expectations on what everybody else says it should be. And if it feels good to you and it's working for you, then that's the most important thing. It's not about doing it right. It's just about doing it.
Yeah. Like I never thought that I would be so into yoga. Like it's really surprised me. I'm like, wow, do I like want to get certified? Like, I don't know. Like, my mind like goes off into all of these things. And I'm like, wow, like it's been so helpful, but it's obviously taken me a really long time to find that, because I would have thought that, going to a gym, or like I liked Zumba at one point. I'm like, oh, like something a little more high impact was really good, but you might need different things at different times of your life.
Exactly.
As well, right?
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, sometimes these things come along, we get the introduction to them, and it's not what we want to take on at that time. And then it comes back later and we're like, fuck yeah, I'm there now. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's exactly. Just, definitely all about timing. We figure that out every day. It's all about timing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we actually, I thought that this was going to be a quick episode, but we ended up like having lots to talk about.
This is almost an hour.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well, hope everyone found some of those techniques and tools, exercises, techniques, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. Whatever they are. Hope snacks. You call them snacks?
They're
coping snacks?
Coping snacks. That's it. Coping snacks.
Yeah.
I like it.
Hopefully people have found this helpful, and let us know if you did, or if there is other ones that you want to share with our little community, please do.
Yes.
We love the feedback and love hearing from others. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much for sharing your insight about Reiki and telling us.
I don't know
more
how
about
insightful it was. I'm not really good at being put on the spot, and I really suck at relaying information as per a textbook. It all just
yeah. Well, we'll put lots of resources.
Yes.
So that if there is something that you want to learn more about, we'll put some links in the description, and you can, do your research and learn a little bit more, like what we have as well. And we'll see everybody in the next episode, I guess.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit those subscribe and share buttons. We'll see you at the next one.